And here we are. Yes, look at us. Hey, welcome in everybody. This is Chris Creations, a fantastic for the Thursday. And today we have a very special guest.
I was wondering who this was.
Yeah, it's just someone
I
has
wonder who it
hijacked
could
our
be,
stream.
honestly. I'm
People
not
just
I
show
don't know
up.
who this person is.
You want to do
I
art or
honestly
something
just
while
kind
you're
of
here?
stumbled in. Oh,
Um,
I mean, I guess.
that's how we get
Like,
All
is that a
right,
requirement?
there we
Is that
go.
possible?
What a coincidence.
them.
What a
But they
coincidence.
invited. Yes, actually, they were invited. So yes, please, Rob. Why don't you tell Twitch and all the wonderful people watching who you are? I'm actually going to post some of your links in the chat for people to see.
Absolutely, go for it. Heads up, I will leave in like T minus 3 minutes. But in the meantime, my name
Just a
is Robin.
teaser.
As you can tell from the username. It's just very obnoxiously spelled Robin, though it is pronounced Robin. It's up to you. We were just discussing it. I do art. I'm 20. I'm Californian. I'm non-binary. Unfortunately, my voice doesn't quite reflect us, so but I am non-binary. Go by they them. Um, and I love D&D. I've played D&D since I was a little sad little sophomore in high school, and I really wanted to like make more friends, and I did that through it was a very funny story of how I got into D&D. I was on a book app, and then they sent a link, like those friends that I made on that book app sent a link into like the chat room, and I was like, they're like, I'm gonna peace out, but do you want to play D&D? And I'm like, I don't know you, I don't know what that is, but sure, like because I knew it was like a
I'm in.
I don't know what that is, but absolutely, because like you're chilling, we're vibing, so like we're like cool. So I joined that little chat room, and it was a Discord chat room, and so we just started our first campaign, and I played a little halfling named Finian, and he was the cutest little fucker I've ever he's just adorable. He's a little ray of sunshine with orange hair. Probably if we do this again, I'm gonna give you Finian to draw next because I think he'd look great in your style. But I played a bard. A bard was my first character to play, and he wasn't
Wow.
like he wasn't like your like Scanlan. He was just a sweetheart. It was just a little
A
guy. He was a
wholesome
little
bard.
guy.
Wow,
So
that is a rare
But I
sight.
it
do
Yeah.
happens. It happens.
yeah, it was like a wholesome, super wholesome little bard. He was so cute. He'd play little tunes. He was adorable. I had a ukulele at the time, and every time we would play, I'd play my little ukulele because he had a lute, and that was the closest thing that I had to a ukulele, or that was the closest thing I had to a lute. So yeah, and then I started to draw more and more, and D&D got me into drawing more people, and so I needed to check my DoorDash. Where are you, Bing? Do you have my ranch? He's down the street. I need to go meet Bing. I will be back. You
Okay.
guys
It was good
continue.
seeing
I
you.
will ramble on about myself with due time. I I had like a neglectful parent. Here I go. Goodbye.
Wow.
And they're gone forever.
Okay. So there we go. And that's it for our show,
All right,
folks.
well, thanks for tuning in, and Rob will be joining us in just a moment when they come back. In the meantime, Chris, tell the people who you are, please.
Oh yeah, I'm here too. My name is Chris, also known as C. Leverett Art, which is how it's pronounced. But if you say Clevered Art, I'm cool with that. That's cool with
Yeah.
me. If you're saying it, that's all that matters, right? Uh, which could be found upon Instagram or Twitter, uh, where you find these days a lot of what we make
Yeah.
actually finished, unlike what you see on here. So that's the benefit of checking those out.
I will say we've been doing a lot, been finishing or the race getting really close on the stream lately. So
It's taken some part twos on some of them. Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
for sure.
And of course I am Alakazam. If you're here, you probably know that, but I'm homebrew. Um, but today we figured we would do a little kind of like art swap, character swap thing. So Robin will drawing Robin's character, and they'll be drawing your character. Um, really fun. I'm excited to see where we go with that. Uh, you know, um, I think you're gonna have them Carls.
That is who they selected. Yes, Harl's Wolffoot, which if anyone had seen our Belarius actual play, you may remember Grandpa Wooly, and is a very sentimental character to me. A lot of influence from from my my grandfather, which was like kind of the origin of art within my family. So
Yeah.
he's this craftsman character that I, took a lot of influence there. So don't mess it up is all I'm gonna say.
Which do you have the art of Harles? Let's go ahead and pull that up.
Yeah, let me pull up Harles here. If you don't remember Harles, here we go.
There he is.
Which I
Um,
do have an actual picture of my grandfather as well, just to kind of give the comparison there. You can see the cap and the wholesome yet stern look on his face, which I really wanted to capture.
yeah. Um,
And then his faithful companion Frizzle Pfeffer.
which that was one thing that was fun during the stream. Those of you who did see our Skies of Valerius stream. Yeah, Frizzle Pfeffer, the animal companion that you had, but also kind of embodied somewhat the spirit of his late wife. I thought was a fun kind of
Right.
idea.
Yeah, I
And
have her carved on his walking stick here, but yeah, she was like a druid who kind of, yeah, that was the remaining spirit, and therefore the connection that he has is carried within it. I was thinking very much like Moana, with the grandmother and her, afterlife as the animal spirit. And so any of his ranger magic would be channeled through this druidic spiritual owl. But
was
also he was just a silly grandpa that would talk a bit too much and ramble on, give a lot of requested, unsolicited advice on things.
it was it was extremely fun character, and I remember doing the stream. It was very easy to get you to do something because I could be like, "Oh, Frizzle Pepper goes and does this thing," and you're like, "Oh, I guess that's what we're doing now."
Right, he was sort of aimless at that point in his life, didn't have his wife telling him what to do. But then he did have his wife telling him what to do through the owl, and therefore the DM had a way to tell Harles what to do.
Yeah.
So I gave you a little bit of device there. Yeah, one of my favorite D&D experiences in that group. Such a good group, role players,
Oh yeah.
and characters that really all played off each other nicely.
And
And excited for everyone to hear about Robin's character that I've gotten to hear a lot about, and that I will be depicting today.
um, so if those of you just joining us, you have our Robin who is stepping up just for a moment to pick up their Uber Eats, but back with us in just a minute and then doing a little character swap. Which this would be. We haven't had a guest on the show for a while. I remember.
I know I want to do more of it, but artists are hard folk to nail down and get them on the same schedule, or actually want to be on camera.
Yes,
Turns out they're shy people, a lot of them. So go figure.
like
I guess we
rabbits.
could share. I don't know if everyone's seen the final product of Absolutely, who we were working on last time while we were
Yes,
hanging out.
please. This
Was real happy with how he turned out.
great character that we had for the last episode. I know you were working on him and then finished him up in the meantime. God, he looks.
Yeah, don't tell the person that I was like supposed to be finishing a commission for that I was sucked into working on on him instead. But I got that done too.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it do be like that sometimes.
It's this is the way.
Um, it's all part of this duplicitous razor's edge of life that we all must walk upon. But absolutely was such a fun character, and I'm really thrilled that he finally has art. Of course, like the week after we campaign. So,
I have returned. Hello. I'm gonna stay off the cam real quick just so we can like shovel Wendy's fries into my mouth. But I will be right to drawing as soon as you can keep talking, but I'm here. Hello.
okay. Well, so yes, as we mentioned today, we're going to do a character swap. So, first we'll be drawing Robin's character, James, if I remember, and then I will be drawing Chris's character Harl. So we were just talking about stepped away, and um, very very excited to see how this goes. I always love seeing Chris's like interpretation of someone's character, other people interpret Chris's stuff. I remember seeing when we had Madman DH for Squid Menace do an interpretation of your character Rodolfo,
Right.
which the initial illustration, of course, gave him the crazy eyes. But after that,
That was my only note. Yeah.
um, but then, of course, your drawing of Boris and Arya, my wife and I's characters that play in most of the stuff that we do. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, it turns out there's a little added pressure when you're doing someone's beloved character in front of them. So we got, at least we're even here. We're both doing it today, so
Yeah.
balances out. It's not just the one person just staring you down while you do it. Wrong. They wouldn't flip their hair that way.
Hey, welcome in. Yeah, it'll be really cool to see, and then I'm like I said, I'm very excited to see Harl's in a different style. That's one of my favorite characters of yours that you've ever done. Like the short time on Skies of Hilarious, but he was so great and had such
It
a
was
huge
a very
impression
special one.
On the entire party.
Right.
It was like everything we did would always tie back to like, oh, but Grandpa Wooly, and like, um, so
Yeah, which was a kind of a different character for me. I'm either playing usually the lovable scamp little character, or the wholesome himbo. But that was kind of a different one, where I was like, I'm actually the wise older character, that's supposed to know things.
yeah,
But it worked out. It worked out nicely, and having certainly a good group to play off of really helps with that too. Why is my screen frozen here? Jeez. Apparently everything technological is happening to me right now. My Procreate is frozen and my headset is dying, so we're doing great. Let's just
killing
close
it as
that.
always.
Oh yeah. I mean, the real skill of an artist is being able to adapt and find creative solutions. So that's
Yeah.
the true test. All right, so we're gonna see what happens with my headset here. I don't know if it works if I plug it in analog style, but if not, I can go get the slightly
Hello.
less good
Oh,
headset.
I'm back.
All right.
Wonderful.
I inhaled that Wendy's. I still have some nugs left, but that's gonna be my little treat for after I'm done
Little
drawing a man.
snackies.
Yeah.
Little snackies.
Little snackies, man. I
Little
just gotta get it
reward.
in my system.
So, why don't you tell us about James, the character that you just
Dangerous question. That is.
Oh,
And
should we put a timer?
I think we should.
and
I will start setting up
so
while
James
you talk
is-
here too.
Let me just like read. Okay, don't worry, I got it. Let me just read everything that I wrote out for Chris right like yesterday.
And show us. Why don't you? I showed a picture of Harl's. If you want to show your some of your art
how
of
do
James
I-
while you.
Yeah.
If you want to just
Let me
pull up what you have in Procreate, even that's what I did.
God. So here's hold on. Give me 1 second.
I'm gonna just switch my headsets and charge this one
'Cause
a little bit, and hopefully that helps. So I'll be right back. 1 second.
Is my Oh, I'm not streaming yet. Okay, cool. I'm not streaming. Let me go ahead and try to fix that. This is trying to find like a good pic of him. We're gonna just like pull some up. Sorry, give me like 2 seconds.
Yeah. You know,
Photos, and then I'm going. I'm sorry.
yeah, I always love seeing, like I said, different interpretations of characters. I actually have found that every time someone draws Alakazam, like I get like a new kind of idea for him, seeing how like other people interpret him as a character.
Mhm.
So it is extremely, I think, helpful and adds a lot of depth to see not just how like someone might is like how you might see your own character, but seeing how other people see your character and what they
Yeah, like
prioritize.
how they would interpret it. Thank you. Sorry, I'm almost done. Evie, go on. Sorry, my dog is being like a mega brat right now.
So the
I'm collecting
first
some of my
time-
favorite James's pieces.
I know the first time Chris drew Alakazam informed a huge amount of his like canon design. It's like I had some ideas that I expressed, and then it was like originally he just had like the hat, and then Chris added like the matching vest and like some of the other like
Nice.
I said like,
I'll
oh, he
pull
has
up
a
my-
magic ring, and Chris added that he has like several rings.
You give me a little something, I'm gonna take it and run with it.
And
Yeah.
I was like, oh, he has a purple
Ooh, I like
cloak, and Chris was like, well, I don't want to do a cloak, so he did like a whole coat that he has like over
Now
his
I
shoulder.
stand by the references you sent me that included having a coat over the shoulder, so I didn't pull that out of nothing.
Yes,
I
that's
will.
it's a caribou shawl specifically.
Yeah.
But
Um,
hi. So I've got him here. I'm sharing the screen. I don't know how that works.
Taking a second to load.
Okay.
Uh,
Win is in here. The one of the comments for here to win is the owner of the redhead who is going to be in one of the photos that I'm going to show.
there we go. Now,
Oh, excellent.
oh, I will say I
So I
have
was
seen
like-
some of the art of games, and I'm very thrilled to see
Yeah.
more
This
to
is
see
James,
Chris's version.
Yeah, I'm so psyched because he's a like I don't know, he doesn't quite have that. He's more of like a grim type looking character, and Chris's style is very whimsical. So it's gonna be very fun to see James kind of like interpreted it in Chris's style.
Oh, we love a juxtaposition.
He was made for like a Feywild, Brothers Grimm Feywild type campaign. We
Right?
call it Grimwild. Like the campaign's name is Crown of Thistles and Blood, but all the players call it Grimwild because that's what it is. It's Brothers Grimm Feywild. It's the Grimwild. So we'd love to see it. This is one of the drawings. This is my first and like it was the first concept and the concept I stuck with because I liked it. He's got that like really shaggy dark hair that just grows off of his arms, his chest, basically all like everywhere along his body, and because he's like got his clothes on, you can't quite tell, but his arms are like black. Like in the Pinterest board that I sent you, like the arms are like solid, like a black with like claws at the end. But he wears his gloves because that's just a trait that he has. Like he's always wearing his gloves. And they have got iron rings over all of them because because he comes from a very superstitious Fey village, so when you go to shake the hand of someone you meet in the woods, if they meet your hand and they start to burn, you know that's a Fey. So that's basically your cue to book it. So yeah, that's a little bit, just a couple details about James. I've got more art here. This is another like one of the first like kind of like sketches I did of him. He's got a very distinct facial portrait where his nose is like long and like hooked downwards. Just because I love that in characters, and it's not really a feature I see too much in other characters. I love it so much.
Yeah.
He's got black sclera on his eyes. Evie, my dog's being a brat. She can smell the Wendy's.
Hmm.
And yeah, he's got like that black sclera and like icy vivid blue eyes. And like the like whole salt and pepper kind of thing going for him. Then here is Quellen and James. I love them so much. Just more kind of references for you to use. He's got steel-toed boots. Again, you can see the gloves and the rings. But yeah, so he's a triple class. He's got 3 classes. He's a Gloomstalker Ranger. He's a Gloomstalker Ranger, Assassin Rogue, and 2 levels in Fighter. he is very fun. He's real. If he could get the jump on you, if he's got hide action going on, and we start combat, you're dead. You're dead because he's got like the coolest it's like assassination things and then action surge. So you're fucked. But that is in very specific circumstances. That's if he's able to hide. If he's in an open arena, it's more challenging. But that's some of the cool, just like, he's really cool. And then I do this last night. It's just him and one of the NPCs.
Nice. Well,
Yeah. So that's a little bit about James. And then I forgot I added that one too. It's just a painting type style that I was trying out. But yeah, that's a little bit about James. He's pretty cool. Triple class and from a Feywild campaign.
nice. And we'll go through as we're going through the stream. I'll switch kind of back and forth between what you're working on, what Chris is working on. But let's go ahead and jump into it. I know, like I said, we talked a little bit about Harls, and I'm very excited to see. Like I said, like your version of Harls. I actually remember when we were starting Valerius, Chris was saying like, oh, I like the idea of like Loxodon, but like, well, could I do like a woolly mammoth version? And so I remember, I think we just used originally just pure Loxodon for his actual build, and then like later on I made a woolly Loxodon variant because I just liked that idea so much. And in the last release for the Valerius setting guide, I know Bogus Cheesecake actually is including lore about how Loxodons in the setting of Valerius are like woolly mammoth style. So that like that character helped change the actual lore of the setting itself. And
We love to see it.
yeah.
All right, let's get to it.
Over around. How you doing, Chris? It wouldn't be a Twitch stream without some technical problems, so appreciate all of you bearing with us.
Oh, I love how I just noticed in the drawing of him too, he's got that like pipe that he's like kind of holding on to with his trunk. That is cool.
Yeah.
We love to see it.
It's I do like, yeah, he has the little pipe, and then, you know, the little details of like, oh, his walking stick, the very end of it is carved to look like his late wife, and he has like the little owl on his shoulder, his animal companion Frizzlepfeffer, because he is a Beastmaster Ranger. And I know we actually I think if I remember correctly, it was like we used the Tasha's options for Beastmaster, and changed a couple of things around. We were trying to be very particular about his build and how he would use Animal Companion. Didn't want to put them in too much danger, but still wanted them to be useful. And it was a big, big priority. Now, your campaign is like being in the Feywilds and games dealing with like all these Fey. Have you gotten into like any like Fey deals and like backward talk of like, especially I know you've mentioned that they have had a direct interaction with Baba Yaga, who I've included in a couple campaigns, and I love to include like when I get the chance. Hags are one of my favorite like enemies to do.
It's so same could be said from my DM. I'm convinced that her favorite thing to throw at us are hags, because for like several sessions now we've had to fight hags. But that is mostly pertaining to the swamp. We started off the campaign in all the characters. The campaign started off with my DM describing them all in kind of like their daily life, but it's not their daily life. It's more of like an interpretation of their daily life, and it's like a dream sequence. For me, with James, he woke up in a cabin that felt like his room, like kind of like his like home, and then he like walked out, noticed that there was like a woman calling out to him and a little girl running by him, and so like he had this like feeling like in a dream, like that's my kid, but you know it's not yours. And this like woman spoke to him and was treating him like so casually and so like lovely, like as though she were his wife. And he was really confused. He's like, I don't think I know you. And she was like, of course you do, dear. Like aren't you going, like, don't you have plans with the other hunters today? Basically like this interpretation of what a hunter's life is like. Same thing happened with the rest of the party members. They all had this interpretation of what their lives kind of are, but not really. And that's when, with every dream ending, all the players woke up with a start. For some context behind these weird kind of dream sequences, they were each found by a hag. Like, at some point in time, all of those characters were found by a hag who, like, you know, did their whole little hag thing where they tap their little ugly finger behind your neck, the back of your neck, and send you into a dream.
Yeah.
Which kind of, like, happened for everybody. So they all were put into the... I think this is what your life is like. And the hags tried to make it like seem like they were like not a character, like this big wagon in cages, and like not like just like, you know, enough for like 4-5 people to fit, including a centaur. We had a character named Failure who was a centaur. He was also in there, so he was taking up the most room. And with some, you know, party shenanigans, they all managed to like kind of like get their way out, with special thanks to the druid who drew wild shaped into a squirrel. I'm pretty sure it was a squirrel, and managed to get out, and would thus led the prison break out of the wagon. To which we were met with a Eladrin, who I'm pretty sure was just in disguise, and another, like, just some, like, enemies, people who were driving the wagon, along with Yeth Hounds. So James's first experience in the Feywild, other than waking up in chains, was being mauled by Yeth Hounds. And then we only managed to get out because Cullen, the druid, had wild shaped into a giant eagle and flew them, like, out of there. Just got them out of there, because it was what did you get in? Supposed to be in here? Well, my dog is being supposed to be in here. You can't have my Wendy's. She wants my Wendy's. But
so is
we
James
ended up flying...
specifically like a ranger? What class
Well,
is
ranger,
James?
He's
assassin,
so
and
he is a
fighter, right?
yeah, he's a Gloomstalker, ranger, assassin, rogue, and 2 levels in fighter. My DM uses him as a punching bag, so I think when I was like, I want to dip into fighter, because I'm not going to take any more levels in fighter.
Gotta be ready for this abuse here, jeez.
I was like, for real, I was like, you've been like kicking him into the dust. Like, he is like bloody and like covered in bruises, please. It's like, let me at least try to get him to defend himself, so that's why I like was allowed to dip into 2 levels of fighter, but from here on out I'm not allowed to do anymore. I'm just supposed to go Gloomstalker for the rest of the way, and I'm pretty sure this is gonna be like a till 20th level. And right now we're at level 11, so we're getting there, but for the rest of the way it's gonna be
a very powerful ranger.
It is. It's so cool. And once you like put like Gloomstalker by itself is powerful, then you add in the little assassin rogue tricks, and you add in like the like the brawler that is fighter. It is dangerous. But he does have a 0 in his charisma saves and intelligence saves, so, and he's dealing with a lot of faith, so he's really gonna kind of get whooped for it. But it's a give and take, you know.
Yeah,
I love it.
Thankfully, it's like you'll be good with wisdom saves, which is to help like resist charms.
Oh,
and
he
things,
does have very good wisdom saves, which I'm like thankful for.
But I know we had a friend of ours, Matt MDH, like guest on the show, who one of his characters that actually talked about was Dorian, was a Gloomstalker ranger, was so powerful because they get that like first round of combat, they get an extra action that does like, it's like an extra attack that does extra damage. So it's like stacking that with assassin. It's like, okay, if you're hidden, or no, anyone that is surprised, it's a critical hit. You have advantage against anyone who hasn't taken their turn yet. So like the thought of being like, okay, on your first turn in combat, it's like, well, if they're surprised and they haven't gone yet, you have advantage against them. They,
Yep.
It's an automatic critical hit. You get an extra attack, and then you get that like your second attack, and then you get an extra attack that does extra damage. And then you can action surge to 2 more attacks. I'm like, holy Christ, that's fucking brutal.
It is brutal, and like like again, just a brutal by itself. Right? Ain't nothing. Ain't nothing, miss.
I actually have
she's,
someone
like,
in my Sunday
Um,
Spelljammer game that is a Gloomstalker Assassin multi-class. They don't have any fighter. That's just Gloomstalker and Assassin. And
yeah.
they, if it's like the first round of combat, I mean, they will outpace like the the Barbarian, the Paladin. Like they will just do so much, and they're still pretty deadly the rest of combat. But like they've ended encounters on their first turn.
Yeah. Like that's their strength. If they can, like, if they manage to surprise you on the first round of combat, you might as well write your obituary because they're going to get you. Like James has he hasn't like one shot anything yet, but like as he gets stronger, what I now get, I love V basically. If that is if he like gets the surprise on them. Also, give me 1 second. I'm gonna go close my door.
You hearing me okay, by the way?
You're a little quiet, but I'm hearing you.
Okay. I haven't tried out charging my headset while using my headset before, so
I can hear you. And you're I'm getting some little sketchiness here for Jim.
I was a little bit further and then realized that I was doing the classic drawing on the wrong layer of my textured layer, which is no bueno.
Rookie mistake.
Oh yeah, been there before. Not my first time.
I do know. I'll be sitting next to my lovely wife in a coffin, and it's like, we've been watching TV, and it's just quiet. We're just kind of vibing, and every night she's is drawing on her iPad, and like it'll be like just dead silence as we're just kind of vibing or watching something. And she's like, "Oh, son of a bitch," because she drew on the wrong layer for like 45 minutes. Or what was it when she had one? I think she did like all of the shadows for the drawing on the wrong layer, and she's like, "Wow, I guess I'll just end it all right now. Like, what am I supposed to do with myself?" It was like 2 hours until she finally realized.
Oh, poor thing.
That was like a while back, but I do remember that, and she was very salty about it for a long time.
So,
whereas it's like if I'm writing homebrew, I have had, it's not the same kind of thing, but it's like I have had where I've formatted something incorrectly, and I've realized like after I've done almost all of it, like, oh, I have to reformat this entire block of homebrew right now. It's on the wrong page, or it's like doesn't fit correctly and like out, or one of the most annoying is I've also found if I'm writing up like stat blocks, I'm like, some things need to be capitalized and some things do not need to be, and figuring out which one is which is a huge pain in the ass. So I'll like write up the whole stat block and be like, oh, I need to flip all the things that are capitalized and all the things that aren't. Which is not like the end of the world, but it is a pain in the ass.
Mm-hmm.
annoying.
So does James use a longbow, or just short
No,
bow and then
he uses
swords,
a
or crossbow?
uses
Oh, so these are bolts on his
the
back.
iron crossbow.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, a
Crossbow
heavy
guy.
crossbow.
Okay, we'll
Huh?
decide if I'm going to include a crossbow there.
Yeah, he recently got taken away from him, actually by the party.
Happens.
Like a like a child who doesn't know how to play nice, but to no fault of his own, other than he was experiencing really bad hallucinations when they got to the Winterlands. Because after meeting Baba Yaga, that are really like interesting all through like out of the swamp and like to civilization, giant's kin, some kind of like giant's kin that was carrying like a giant cargo of like all of these really crazy magic items, and they're like, oh, but all of them looked really fucking cursed. So they're like, hey, we're not gonna like touch that, because our party is like decently smart. I'll give them props for being like decently smart, but for the most part, we were like, we're not gonna touch that, and they're like,
Oh, we lost you.
And then what?
oh, and then nothing happened. I disappeared.
We lost you for a
The
second.
campaign ended.
There we go.
Am I back?
Now you're back. Yeah.
Sick.
I do love to throw a
yeah.
merchant with a bunch of cursed shit at a party and see what happens. Because there's always at least one player who's like, yeah, but how cursed is it though? Like, is it worth it?
You
So.
and my DM.
You're also very
knows
generous with
why,
the magic
like,
items too, though, so it balances out.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. My like DM is generous, but she is more so of like, cause during the when we got to the what is it called, the Merc Root trade, which is like this kind of like little like trading post in the swamp, like in Baba Yaga's swamp. We had access to getting a ton of like cool magic items, but none of us had the money for it. Like none of our characters had the money for it, aside from Ansel, who comes from royalty, who's also an asshole, and he was very much like, "You guys ain't getting nothing from me." So we had to like leave mournfully as we looked at all these cool magic items set right in front of us, but we couldn't take any because A, we weren't assholes and we weren't gonna steal. B, we just didn't have the money for it. So we were like, so she gives us opportunities to buy things, but like it's a very like, buy them if you've got the money for it.
I'm pretty generous with magic items. I usually give out like some fun like wondrous items and like cool weapons and armor. I try to pace weapons in the sense of like, okay, now they've like beaten this like boss and like they get a trophy from it. I was trying to say Sir Barry is very rich. No. Where would he put all of his money? Or he's very rich in like toy money.
That's why he was so heavy. He was stuffed with gold.
But I'll have where it's like, oh, the party is like they beat this boss and it's like a really tough fight, and the fighter's like, okay, like I'm going to keep his axe and I'll use it now, or like, their shield or this. And I try to show off a boss like using an item so that the party is like, I want that, like, and
yeah.
I do have a couple campaigns where I'm much stingier with it. Like I have a Dragonlance game, which the whole part of that that setting, like one of the main principles is that it's got like this incredible magic, but magic items are supposed to be very rare there. There's not like being a mage is very rare. There's like almost no clerics in the world, so it's like, okay, you're not gonna get a ton of stuff normally. Where my party's at, where they're all level 5, they would all have like magic weapons, and probably most of them would have magic armor. But I think like the druid has a +1 shield, and someone has like a magic amulet, and that's about it. So if it's setting specific, I'll be stingier, but I'm usually very generous.
We did get a couple cool rings though. One of my favorite items that James does have, aside from his crossbow, because his crossbow is it is a magic item, because we were all allowed one magic item when the campaign started, and I decided that James's crossbow would be like his quote unquote magic item. But I also got a pretty cool It's a ring. It's a what's it called? Iron bands of binding. It's
Oh,
basically yeah, I'm pretty sure you know it. It's a iron ball full of like iron bands, and it's especially
Yes.
like cool for James to have because the whole like iron burns Faye Hunter kind of yada yada. All of his metal that he wears on him is iron, which is very funny because in a current in the Winterlands when we went into Fort Barrow, which is like this giant kingdom in the Winterlands, which is currently going through some shit. They took away all of his iron. They took away all of his iron. He was stripped of everything that he had because everything he has is iron. Um, so like not for any malicious purposes other than that's just kind of how his like town rolls.
yeah.
So poor guy, he was like stripped of everything.
I know.
Yeah, we put
Uh,
some good
we-
use to the iron bands
We had
in
a
a fight.
campaign
you?
where the main villain was this black dragon, and it was actually an ancient black dragon and his son, who was an adult black dragon. Still technically an ancient black dragon, but like we use the stats for an adult black dragon. And it was Billy Bones was the son. His dragon name was Brimel Entrabar, but it was like he was just such a nasty bastard who had set up like every problem that the party had run into. It was like they found not everything, but it was like 90% of the quests they had gone on were because he hired the villain or he set up this cult or he did that. Like it all tied back to him,
Yeah.
and ultimately his father like pushing him to do these evil things. And they went back in time to fight him because he had been hiding in time, and fought him at his lair, and it was a really really tough crazy fight. And then like super clutch Chris's character used Iron Bands of Bolaro, or the Iron Bands of Binding, if it's not Forgotten Realms, to capture him. And it was like he was trapped. It was like if he doesn't make the save, then he can't get out for 24 hours. And so it's like, okay, he has to make this save, and he was like out of legendary resistance. And they had done a spell that like gave him disadvantage on like the check, and someone did like a silvery barbs or something. Like it was like they stacked up everything they could to make sure that he couldn't make this check. And I'm like, okay, he can't get out. He's trapped, and he was like caught in what was it, the radiant spell, sickening radiance, and like caught in this other effect. I'm like, he just withers away in the iron bands and calls for help, and his father does not help him. I think even in that moment the whole party was like, oh man, like feel bad.
Thanks, Dad.
A
Like
little bit.
it was
Yeah, when it turns into just like a slow death, we're just like, oh,
like, yeah, he's
is this
just
okay?
trapped in this iron prison trying to get out, this like proud
That is
dragon.
so funny.
And they're like, oh, he's just burning alive inside this prison. Should we do something? It's like, no, he's a bad guy. We're trying to kill him, but
Kind of feel bad because his dad's a jerk and I could relate.
yeah, it was just like, oh, we figured his dad would like swoop in to save him. It's like, nope. It was like his father was just like, oh, he's weak, and just left him to die.
That sounds like a very dragon thing to say, not gonna lie.
Yeah. And that was a really memorable fight, and dealing with him, and then later like facing down his father was like a huge deal for Absolutely, which was the character we illustrated last time.
Okay.
But yeah, Brimel Entrabar, and then his father Rupert Julyankin are some of my favorite dragon names I've come up with, but it was Billy Bones and Ruby the Kind.
Mhm.
Very, very ridiculous characters. But yeah, Iron Bands of Bolaro is something I'm very familiar with, and I give a lot more pause to give them out now because of that fight. So I was like, wow, he had a lot more fight in him, but like because of that, they just ended the fight, and I was like, he just can't get out, which means you can just pelt him endlessly till he's dead. So like that's it.
Asshole father.
I I realized just how powerful the iron bands are if you really know how to use them, and
Yeah.
that party knew how to
But
use them.
they're cool as hell. I remember the one time that James did get to use them was because they were in Baba Yaga's hut, and so she basically she posed as a very nice little woman like in the middle of the marsh, and we're all like, this has gotta be Baba Yaga. There's no other like old little lady somewhere in the fucking middle of the goddamn swamp. There's no way it could be anybody else. So our druid flew over there in the form of an owl. And so the witch gave her some meat, and with like a very good insight check, we decided that the meat was safe. Quellen ate the meat because she was an owl and she was hungry. And we kind of deemed it was like, okay, she's safe because Quellen didn't die. So we're like, all right. So we, as the party, we kind of approached, we knew it was Baba Yaga, but we decided to approach the hut anyways because we had her shit. We were looking for her anyways. We go in and we're like. Where she's like, "Oh, you poor travelers, come in, like you must be so tired," and we're like, "Oh yeah." She sits us down for dinner with a very good insight check from James, because James's insight is like a plus 11. He's got a very
4 months. What's up, David?
What's up, David?
Yeah, there is some times where it's like you want the party to know that this is like. If you start being like, oh yeah, this witch who lives in this hut with chicken legs, and this is like, they're gonna figure it out. There's no way to hide that.
Like, there's no way.
I do like that D&D, like, back at they've had Baba Yaga in previous editions, and then like for 5th ed, when they first did this edition, they were kind of scared to say it, so they had Baba Lizaga, which was
Baba Lizaga.
It's the one.
Baba O'Reilly.
She was the wet nurse of the Zarovich family, so she raised Strahd since he was a kid. And it's like, oh yes, I will use him for evil. Like, okay, but then and she like lives in the swamp, and as this, like, all right, you know what I mean? Like, just say Baba Yaga. But then in later modules, because that was like one of the first 2 modules that came out for 5th ed, they finally were like, okay, Baba Yaga, this is just a different hag, is Baba Lizaga. Like, oh, is she?
Is she? Ignore me, like, posing my hand for, like real-time references.
Hey, appreciate the follow. Yeah. Hey, as long as it works.
What was that name that just popped up? Was that Thaddeus?
Yeah.
That's my boy! If it might be my boy. I might be wrong. If you're a random ass Thaddeus, then sorry. I thought you were my boy. But if you are my boy, hi boy.
We accept all Thaddeus's.
We do accept all Thaddeus. Oh, no, it's not my boy. Sorry, Thaddeus.
We still love you, Thaddeus.
We still love you.
We love you even more, Thaddeus, that you came here of your own volition.
Okay, actually, no, I think that might be. I don't know. I'm not good at reading.
Never heard of
that
him.
Might be sarcasm from my boy. He always does
Wow,
that.
don't you even know a Thaddeus
Like,
when you
truly,
see
I
one?
should know my boy by now. That's kind of screaming him. But like, then again, I might just be talking to some random ass Thaddeus. I'm so no. His username is Thaddeus. If you Thaddeus, I'm sorry, Thaddeus, but like, I'm
Piecing
pretty
it
sure
together.
you're my Thaddeus.
You're my Thaddeus. You're our Thaddeus now. Welcome.
Whatever.
Put the spotlight on Thad over here. Jeez.
That over here.
Yes,
That
like
is
Gatekeeper
Thad.
Girl
That's
Boss.
my Thad. That
Okay.
is my Thad.
There
Fuck
we
you.
go.
I will say one of my favorite T-shirts I've ever seen is where it's the Heaven's Gate logo, but it says Gaslight Gatekeep Girl Boss. I want that shirt so bad. Chris knows I don't wear T-shirts, unless like I'm working out, which is very rare, as you can tell.
I'm very big on novel t-shirts, as you can tell with my wonderful little rat shirt.
Loving the
But
red shirt.
I do have a weird soft spot in my heart for very ridiculous T-shirts. Chris knows that my ultimate goal is to get the I'd rather be listening to Smooth, which I think is the funniest shirt of all time. where it says I'd rather be listening to the Grammy Award-winning 1999 hit "Smooth" by Santana featuring Rob Thomas of Matchbox 20 off the multi-platinum album Supernatural. And I'm like, that's so many words to put on a shirt, but I want it.
Yeah, I love those ultra specific shirts. I've gotten a couple of those, like ironic, my wife is a whatever, blah blah blah.
Oh yeah.
I really would love. I saw it on Insta. No, I think I saw it on TikTok. It's a T-shirt that says "DILF" and then it says "Damn, I love frogs." Like.
Oh,
on the
I've seen
bottom.
that one for sure. Yes.
So we're doing a little character art swap right now. Oh, you want to offer promotions? Oh my god, thank you so much, Model. I'm gonna block you right now, but I appreciate.
We still love you.
But we're doing a character swap. So Chris is drawing Robin's James, and they're drawing Chris's character Harles from our Skies of Valerius campaign.
Have you
going
switched
with
over to Harles yet? I haven't
I
seen.
I just actually switched back to you because
Oh,
I've
you
been on Harles.
keep switching.
Gotta
Keep switching. Oh.
Switching.
I'm not with it. Okay.
James is looking so good right now.
Okay.
I'm so like psyched.
Okay, here, I'll switch back so you can see.
Oh, okay. Let me get ready.
Look at the.
And then it's going to be a delay because I'm watching it on Twitch.
Yeah, of course. So in 10 minutes, you'll be able to see. But, yeah, I do like to see the art swaps and to see how characters are interpreted by like other artists.
Hey, there he is. Ooh, Frizz. Looking good.
Oh yeah. I'm trying to like get like that like big like broad body type.
Right. Yeah, I haven't even gotten into the warp tool here. Let's do that now. Fiddle around. Or the liquefy, excuse me. Get my terminology right.
Also, I flipped the canvas religiously, so ignore me doing that. I will continue.
Oh
doing
yeah, yeah. I'm constantly like giving a seizure
that. Yeah, for real.
with all the flipping around I'm doing.
David says, I'm currently recovering from COVID, so I'm just playing a lot of video games, drowning myself in Warhammer 40k lore, drinking medicine for the rest of the week. That's very fair. Please feel better as soon as possible. I will say, good time to be drowning yourself in Warhammer lore, because they just announced 10th edition last night. Coming out this summer. And the return of Lionel Johnson. Yes! Been waiting since the 90s for this motherfucker to come back. Any fans of Warhammer out there should be excited.
I'm like excited for the D&D movie.
I've been hearing good things about people that have seen the early release.
Yeah, I honestly
be fun.
Really want to see it. Like, I've gotten to a point where I know Wizards of the Coast be fucking up and this,
Oh god, tell me about it.
But honestly, like, it looks like a fun movie, and I want to see it, and I don't really care anymore what anyone wants to say about me, because I want to see it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a D&D movie. It's kind of like a stepping stone for nerds. Like, even if you don't want to support like Wizards of the Coast after the shit that they try to pull, like, it's so much a movie. Even if you pirate it.
Yeah. If we can support that type of movie, then we can get more things. Seeing things like Critical Role getting their own animated series. Like, there's hopefully a continuing wave of more of the cool TTRPG stuff coming into the mainstream.
Oh yeah, dude.
It's something that, like, if we want, more fantasy media, you need to support it, and I do want to see that. It's just something, and it's funny because, like, I've seen some very good reviews for it, which is nice. The only negatives I've seen, honestly, are people being like, well, it's very much like Guardians of the Galaxy, and I'm like, oh my god, it's like a good movie. That's great. Oh god, what a fucking horror show that it's.
Oh man,
it's very much like another thing that I like.
I've heard that it's a lot like just a normal D&D campaign that's been condensed into 2 hours, and I'm excited for that personally.
I do also know.
Yeah, I've seen some critiques that are like, I wish it was more like grim, dark, serious, like Conan. Like, most D&D games are ridiculous and wacky, So even if you intend it to be serious.
Yeah, I remember starting like a very dark, gritty, serious game, and then like 3 sessions in, we were all just cracking jokes and being ridiculous. Like it, it's unavoidable in D&D. Like you want to have fun.
It
Um,
is.
and there was one complaint that I saw that was so stupid, where they're like, "Well, if you were gonna actually run, I don't know that I would actually use D&D combat because like they do this thing and like I'm like." Oh, I'm sorry. Does the rogue attack more than once in 6 seconds? Oh, unwatchable garbage.
Yeah, I love
It's
people that are like have their player's handbook out, like comparing to what they
like
do.
Just
Like,
it's
the
a fucking
Redditors,
okay,
like in
movie.
the movies, texting on their phones, being like, "This is wrong."
Yeah, it's like you
Like, bro, it's a D&D movie. Enjoy it.
says you'll make a grimdark villain and your players will give them a dumb nickname
We
within the
can't.
first 2 times. Definitely,
Like, we
it's
cannot just
oh,
have
like Rudy
Monty Python
Giuliani,
and the
your
Holy
dragon.
Grail.
mm,
Like, that can't just be our singular movie of Monty Python and the Holy Grail. We need more than that.
yeah, and
Like, no slander towards Monty Python. We all love Monty Python in the studio, but my god.
yeah, yeah. Chris just brought up a good point. It's like, yeah, I had Rupert Juliankin, and I was so proud of this dragon name. I mentioned it one time, and they're both, "Oh, Rudy Giuliani," and I was like, "Son of a bitch." Nothing is more true D&D than the rules being bent for the sake of something cool. Exactly. Also, it's like
Wait,
I have heard that there
Or
is some
fun.
discussion of like, oh, well, they're too far away for me to do this spell, so let me do this, or like, oh, we need it. Like, there's some little discussions for people who care about like the exact stuff, but then they also have like
spoilers?
people were all up in arms about the druid being able to turn into an owl bear, and they're like they released her official stat block, and it's like, oh no, she can turn into a beast like a normal druid, or she can turn into an owl bear, and that's her thing. It's like, oh cool, that's like her subclass of druid.
Yeah.
um,
If she doesn't get any, like, other typically, like, cool shit, but, like, that's pretty, like, you know. And it's supposed to be just for cinema. It's a movie.
my only complaint about the movie, and I like I said, I've not seen it, but my only complaint seeing the trailers is that they all look fucking boring. Like they're all humans or elves, and it's like, come on.
I wish there would have been a little bit more, yeah, variety there.
Like,
But
give me one like orc or dragonborn or something.
mhm.
But I still am very excited to see it. And I do also know it has Thumbershad, who is one of my favorite dragons, like official canon dragons of all time, because he's a dragon who lives in the Underdark, and he has eaten so much that he's just become really fat. So he's just a big old fat dragon who just like waddles around because he has a hard time moving because he's so big. And I'm like, that's very silly. And I just like the idea of like this big dragon be like, "Brr," like trying to move and like breathe on people.
Yeah, I think there's this distinction between like being something that's comical versus something that kind of makes a mockery of the source material. Like
Yeah.
they kind of poke fun at it versus making the joke with it, you know? Like I know some of the earlier Marvel or superhero movies in general where they're like the old spandex costume, and then now it's like we see that they're actually honoring the comics more, you
Yeah.
know, rather than kind of making fun of what they came from. So as
Uh,
long as they respect the spirit of it, that's what matters to me.
I don't miss that in superhero movies, them like just disrespecting actual fans for liking the source material. Like I remember when we did see like when I did see X-Men as a kid, and it's like, oh, would you expect yellow spandex? I was like, yes, I did expect yellow spandex, and I was so furious at that line. So it was kind of nice to find out that Bryan Singer's a piece of shit, and hopefully he never gets work again.
Jeez.
He's one of those director who is a piece of garbage, like an actual sex pest. But it's nice that there's so much material now that they actually care about what the fans want, and they can have fun with it and be like, okay, we all accept that this is ridiculous, so let's just have a good time. But they're not just gonna go and just be directly hating on the audience. I think that you can tell when an adaptation is made by people who are actual fans of the source material versus people who just are like, oh, this is just my job to adapt this and don't care.
Yeah.
like so you can see like Henry Cavill leaving The Witcher because they just keep disrespecting the source material, versus like the first
Oh, is that
season
what
that he worked so hard to like be as accurate as he could be and like really cared about Geralt, and then like to find out that multiple writers would like laugh in his face when he would make suggestions to make it more like the books, and they're like, no, we're gonna do what we want, this is just like fantasy garbage and people will give us money. And he's like, no, this is an actual important project to me. And that they couldn't reconcile that is like essentially the entire reason that he left The Witcher. Which that was like really heartbreaking to hear because he cares so much, but now he's doing a Warhammer project, so fingers crossed for that. He's such a big fan of Warhammer. I do believe he's supposed to be actually be like an executive producer on that, so ideally he has a lot more creative control. Loving Harl so far.
I'm good. So I'm like trying to like get the waistband right.
Hey, it's Ina Coffin. Oh, what?
There she is.
OMG, Harl looks amazing. Yes, it does. Netflix.
I feel like James is definitely going to be your type too, Ina.
Yes, we will cut back to James in a moment. We just looking at him, so. But I just want to play Wild Hunt again. Oh yeah, so do I. I've replayed it. I'm on like my third playthrough now, but it's such a massive game that it's like I gotta be ready to replay it.
Enough, I've never really played any game like Warhammer, nor The Witcher, nor like any like video game like Skyrim. No fantasy games actually, aside from like literally just Dungeons and Dragons, which isn't really, it's not a video, it's like, you know, it's a TPG.
Yeah.
Or TPG. No.
TTRPG.
That's the word. That's what I meant.
Okay.
I'm a very intelligent person, as you guys can tell. But I was never like really a player of those games, but I did love Dungeons and Dragons. Cause I was never really a gamer, nor am I like today. I do love Red Dead Redemption. Cause I recently got that, and that's kind of my introduction. I also loved Breath of the Wild, even though I haven't passed like, I got to like maybe like 15% of the game, and I was loving it. And then one day I just kind of like, I was like, I'm gonna take a break from this, and I never picked it up.
Oh, classic.
Like, I just,
yeah.
Like, classic ADHD. I hyperfixated
Yeah.
on it. I was like, oh, I love this. This is so fun. And then, like, I'm getting like overwhelmed. But I'm gonna take a break. I'm gonna come back to this like in a couple days, and then just.
And even if you do try to go back to it, it's like it's been months, so like you don't remember how to play it. So, oh, I left myself right before a boss. Great. Okay.
Sweet. Right up there, and it's been like longingly staring at me. I was like, why did you spend so much money on me and games that you won't play? Because I have so many games. I've bought like $60 games. I got Pokemon, what is it called? I think I got Pokemon Sword when it first came out, as a gift for my birthday. And I played a little bit of it, and I never got back to playing it, and my friend wants to kill me for it, but it's fine.
It's fine. It's fine.
It's fine.
I will say, like, yeah, I had mentioned this to you earlier, but like, before the stream, but it's like, I was a huge fan of just fantasy and stuff like when I was a kid, and I read like all sorts of fantasy books. So like I read like the Witcher books, and you know, I've been a fan of like Warhammer, mostly lore-wise. Like, I don't play much of the actual like tabletop game because the models are so fucking expensive. But they're just like, it's like I was in that realm for so long, and then when I finally got into D&D, it's like, oh, well, now you see why this is such a powerhouse in the space. And like, yeah, I've been doing like Pathfinder, and I've been, you know, Vampire the Masquerade, and you know, I've been like experimenting with Blades in the Dark and Lancer, and obviously I'm making my own system right now, Splice, which I'm very excited about. But like, playing D&D is just changed so much, and now when I like read like the Dragonlance books that I read so much when I was a kid, I was like, oh, now I kind of get this and like why there were some of these limitations and some of this, and like you can see how some of these fantasy stories that were inspired by D&D helped then inspire like future editions of D&D, and then how D&D inspired certain fantasy novels and things to then be created. So it's a fun kind of like cycle. Oh, Ina says zoom in on that hair, buddy.
I got you. Got flowy hair, handsome lad here. What's not like
so
to
handsome. I love my boy. What do I do with my time if I don't make gorgeous characters for my D&D campaigns?
Oh yeah, there you go. There you
I
go,
know-
Ina.
I
You
know
got
that
someone you can
that's-
relate with.
Yeah, that's what I want to say. Ina's whole thing, any character she plays, it's like, oh, it doesn't matter as long as they're hot. Like that is their number one priority. All their characters have to be hot.
And
Oh,
I play the weirdest character and try to make them dumb looking, but then trick you into like them having heart behind their derpy eyes.
Almost all of Chris's characters are either like just a silly little guy or it's like a big himbo.
We love to see it. Let's see. He's very shaggy. Let me add some like of that like.
I play a lot of different looking characters usually, but I will say I do love a prosthetic arm. That's like a go-to for me. But I typically play like very different looking characters. The big thing is almost every single character I make is like ton of survivor's guilt. That's a really important thing for me. And they're like, no, I'm like tough on the inside, or like they're like really fun and jovial on the outside, but like it's all of it is a mask of some deeper pain that they won't share until they like trust someone.
It usually
You
makes
could definitely
very
do it.
role-play moments.
Yeah.
What is the psychology behind our character choices? There's definitely a
remember-
lot there.
when I did Red Stream and I was playing Fireball, who was just this super ridiculous character. He's like, oh, I'm just, guy who's hilarious and cool. And it's just like it's like very much like that cyberpunk version of my other character, Boris. And then like a few sessions in, he went from like just very silly comic relief to like, oh, he is a maniac who like will kill anyone who gets in his way. And then they found like even more. It's like, oh, he's just absolutely heartbroken because like the man that he was in love with died, and he just like blames the world. And he's like, why won't anyone love me? He's like, all I do is just burn everything I touch. And they're like, oh god.
God, traumatized.
We thought we had just a happy dude, silly guy.
It's
You
like, he's
got
like,
us.
oh yeah, I just put on a front all the time because I'm afraid that I'll destroy everything I love. They're like, oh fuck.
And if they're silly goofy, maybe they'll like me before I do that.
Ugh.
Gotta love a bait and switch with
Or-
characters.
He had this whole thing that he was obsessed with Elflines Online, which is like Night City's big MMO like VR game that they played, like very Sword Art Online style. And they found out like several sessions in, like, oh, the reason that he plays it like 24/7 is because he hates life and hates himself so much that he just wants to escape into this fantasy world.
Oh, whew. It's rough, buddy.
Buddy!
Like, it's like, oh yeah, it's like it is fun to explore your own neuroses like through your characters. Being a DM, like obviously I play a billion different characters, but when I actually get to commit and like just play in a game, I usually go ham with something like that. Yeah, because I only want to draw hot people. Just let me live my best life. Exactly.
I got. If my characters aren't hot, I'm not doing it right. Aside from Francis, who I made specifically to look like a weasel, and somehow, someway, he's the most popular, like, out of all of my characters amongst my friends. Like, in regards, like, who's my hot associate? And they're like, Francis. I'm like, ew.
You were trying not to.
Francis. Huh?
Yeah.
I'm just like, why him? Like, what is this? God, he's the worst.
it's Ian says I have 2 types and they're all clerics. Yeah.
Oh, I love clerics. Twilight clerics are the fucking G.
Every single character Ina plays is a cleric. She's done a paladin a couple of times, and she did a playtest where she played as my occultist class that I had homebrewed up. That was really fun, but like she's always plays a cleric. Chris has
Played a
seen
Twilight
several
cleric,
different.
Ina.
I know.
Yeah, I'm like trying to play every or at least as many classes and races as possible. So I'm just going through the gamut. But I'm kind of narrowing down. Like, okay, I can't do too much with the caster just because my brain won't let me handle all the spells. So limit it myself there to something martial based, maybe with a little bit of magic for flavor.
I love Twilight clerics because of the way that at least I made my Twilight cleric when I played him. His name was Umbriel, and he was a Simic hybrid. Displacer Beast Simic hybrid, which is
Ooh.
sick because he got the Displacer Beast like that stat.
Yeah.
Which is super cool. But he was the healing tank of the party. He was kind of built like he was a cleric, but I played him like a paladin, which worked really well because he was a Twilight cleric, so he got access to heavy armor. He had this really cool like dual like bladed like scimitar where like he would like kind of like twirl like a badass to like just fucking whack someone. And then at the same time, he would also use it to heal the party. It had a 10-foot reach too, so like he was cool.
Nice.
For the very end of that campaign, I had used that like technique that I did where he runs in like a tank, beats the shit out of at least the biggest threat, and then falls back to heal himself and heal other people while the rest of them go get him. That's kind of like the vibe, at least kind of what we did. And we were facing up against a ton of mind flayers, and it had the option. It was like one big mind flayer. I forgot what they're called, but like the head of the mind flayers, and then like a ton of little mind flayers around him. And I was thinking, I was like, do I want to hit the mind flayer, like the middle guy, or do I want to hit one of the little guys who are in the chain and see what that does? And I made the mistake of hitting one of the little guys. And it ended up like I used what is it called? Mind I think I used Mind Fire or something. It's
Mind Sliver?
Contagion. No, it's I used Contagion, and it was
Contagion.
the mind kind of because like there's one that affects the mind, one that affects like con.
Yeah.
Get idea. And I used the one that affected his mind, and I'm pretty sure it was called Mind Fire or something like that, or like Fever, like Mind Fever, something like that. Because they're mind flayers, so I really wanted to target their head. And it's absolutely like killed the thing, and I thought it would affect the whole chain because they're all connected because it was like mind fire. But they ended up like noticing that he was like, they noticed him seizing, and before it could affect the rest of them, they just cut him off from like the little like mind synchronicity.
Oh.
I was like, God damn it!
Yeah.
I should hit the big one because I
Yeah,
think if I had, it would have affected all of them, and they would have all went down.
I've
And if
had a similar fight within the Elder Brain. Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure only like clerics and very few other classes get Contagion, and I used it in a very like martial way, and it was the coolest like thing I've ever done. I loved it so much.
Ian says she has been a Twilight in our Witchlight campaign. That's true. I forgot. She played as the adopted daughter of Tasha. So she was obviously like the granddaughter of Baba Yaga actually in that campaign. Because Tasha is adopted by Baba Yaga.
Yeah.
That was a really fun game. We actually got like most of the way through, but it was like we had scheduling issues and weren't able to finish it. But that was a really fun cleric. And she says Grave is her favorite domain, which Grave is such a good domain. Very powerful. You can just stop other people from dying, and do all sorts of crazy shit. God,
Yeah.
Harl's looks awesome right now. Oh my god.
Oh, thank you. Sorry, I'm like just lining. It's like a loose lining. I don't what is that saying? My plants. I have 2 plants on the side.
Oh yeah, Grave
dog.
Cleric.
No, I've got 2 plants on the side of my PC, and like there's a big ass leaf that's blocking the entire like chat section.
Yeah, because you get Spare the Dying that you can do as a bonus action at like 30 feet, which is insane. And then you can know the location of like any undead. And then you can do something where it's like choose someone and then they have vulnerability to the next attack that they are hit with. So like I remember she did that one time where it's like she did the path to the grave to just be like make them vulnerable, and then it was like the party's druid did this like really nasty spell on them, and it's like, oh yeah, they're vulnerable to that damage, so they take double damage. Oh yeah, the cancel crit, which yes is also ridiculous. As a reaction, it's like within 30 feet. Yeah, if at 6th level they get that, so you just cancel a crit, and you can do that several times a day. And then like oh yeah, if someone is at 0 hit points and you heal them, they get max healing from whatever you heal them. Yeah, Grave Domain is bananas. Oh my god.
The artists are focused.
I've gotten quiet.
Yes.
I have also gotten quiet, I apologize. Then again, I've talked like all the way up until this point.
But I oh yeah, crit on demand. It's Cleric is like undoubtedly the most ridiculous class. Like they have a huge spell list, they know all their spells, they're super adaptable, they're great healers, they're great tanks, they're great fighters, they're great like there's no situation in which a cleric is not like amazing.
I agree.
And also spoopy goth themed. Exactly. But yeah, I remember did a Grave Domain cleric for her character Yuri, which is one of her favorite characters. That was our first one that we did where she went level 1 all the way up to 20, which we've done several times since, but like I always remember like that first one, and it's just such a big deal, such a cool story. We actually did Waterdeep Dragon Heist, and then segued into Storm King's Thunder, and then after Storm King's Thunder, it was like completely homebrew till they were level 20. And that was just really, really fucking fun. The story essentially was like after they finished Storm King's Thunder, it was like they were joined by a bard, which is like her character's husband was a bard who had stolen the Klee lyre. I said that like the instruments of the bards, instead of being like, oh yeah, there's like 20 different Klee lyres, it's just the type of. It's like, no, I made it in the world that there's only one of each instrument of the bards. So like the lyre, the Alam harp, the Bucklucan Bangalore, like all the different like cool magic item version. I said there's only one of each, and someone was using them or like trying to steal them. But like they played the music that kept all the planes in alignment. So if they didn't like find all of them and like play them at special temples to restore them, all of the planes would slip out of alignment and crash into each other, and it would cause the destruction of like all of the planes.
Fun campaign to be a bard in.
Yeah. So they had to go around and like find every instrument of the bards and like go to different temples to like play each of them. And it was also like the party's druid had like a series of trials he had to do to become what's called the Warden of the North, and then like that tied into it as well. And like the party's fighter had like his childhood rival was like helping the bad guy, so he had like good reason for that. And then like because Ina's character's husband was like had already stolen the Klee lyre, which had kind of kickstarted this whole thing by accident, like, and he had since lost it. it's like that was a big part of it. So it's like everyone's backstory got to be really tied together in a really interesting way, and
I love it when campaigns do that.
yeah, I try to tie in character backstories as much as I can. Sometimes I'm given backstories that I just can't. There's nothing to work with. Of like,
Yeah.
oh, they're just like a silly dude. And it's like, all right, well,
Well,
you know.
your silly dude is now the bastard son of a king.
Yeah, it's like I do what I can, but I've had some that I'm very proud of. I know like actually the campaign that we had, absolutely, I tied in Absolutely's family and this other character Rune, who was a pirate. Like the whole campaign was essentially dealing with like different pirate, even though it had these dragons, it's like they were part of the pirate court, so it's like the pirate king and like these other, you know, pirate lords, and that was really fun.
Yeah, I try my best when I'm playing a silly character to still have like their purpose and their connection to the world. They're not just like, whatever, dude, like do my thing, you know. I tied in the silly little frogman, you know. His family was very much affected by all the events of the story.
Yeah. Take another gander back at Harl's.
It's not Harl's right now, actually.
Oh, we're working on Frizzle Pfeffer.
We do have Frizzle Pfeffer.
I haven't checked it out in a little bit here. Let's look at Frizz. Look at that face.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely delightful. We still have some time left. We have another 15 to 30 minutes.
Gonna rush. Hold on.
Which for that actually reminds me of, I haven't actually watched the show. I've only like seen little things on Twitter and Instagram and stuff, but I've heard it's really good. The Owl House. Oh, well, there you go. Worked out.
Yeah, I watched a bit of it. Yeah.
It's so good. I love it. As someone who was a fan of Amphibia when it came out, when my friends sat me down to watch the Owl House, I was immediately like, all right, I love it. Get it. Like, I see what you mean, because they were because like all of my friends are like, a lot of people like in their like 20s, like 19, 18, 20s kind of range, are usually a lot of fans from the Owl House, because like people who are like more like younger like me are very kind of like basically like weaned off of Disney Channel, you know, and like Gravity Falls.
Yeah.
Sure, you guys have watched Gravity Falls.
I've seen bits, but it was little after my time for Gravity Falls.
Oh my god, I loved Gravity Falls when it was a thing, but that's like, yeah, when my friends were like, you gotta watch this, and I was like, all right, cool, I'll watch it. I did, and it's really good, and it's still going on, but I haven't watched any of the newer episodes, but that's just because I'm not really a watch things person, unless it's like a nature documentary. Documentaries. I love watching like just like a very monotone man talking over animals literally doing fucking nothing.
I have a very specific nature like I watch mad documentaries, but like I have very specific nature documentaries I watch that like I'll watch, you know, anything and probably be happy with it as in terms of like nature ones. But if it's about the deep sea, I can't help myself. Like I have to watch it.
Yeah.
Anytime, like if you have David Attenborough and like, you know, video from like the Abyssal Zone, I'm fucking on board. Like I am down to clown till I'm dead in the ground. I cannot help myself. The other like big obsession is any documentary or like video essay or anything that has to do with Chernobyl. I don't know what it is. When I was like a kid, I was obsessed with the Chernobyl disaster, and I've seen so much shit about Chernobyl. I know when the Chernobyl show came out on HBO, I was like, I'm sure I drove Chris crazy. I drove my wife crazy because I would not shut up about it. I've just always been like a huge, fascinated by it, I guess. I don't want to say I'm a fan of all these people dying in Chernobyl, but I just think it's fascinating.
Yeah. It's like people being like interested in like serial killer documentaries, I like to think.
Yeah, like I will say at the like 2020, like the first year of lockdown, I watched every fucking true crime thing. I think we all had like some weird morbid fascinations at the beginning of lockdown, but like
I remember mine.
Yeah, everyone watching Tiger King.
Oh
oh
my god.
god, it's funny because I feel like that show would have really slipped under the radar if it had not come out at the exact perfect time. You know, like I'm sure it probably would have been somewhat popular,
Kind of like,
but it would have had like a tenth of its success if we were not in the like if everyone else had something to do.
Like, all right, I got nothing else to do. Yeah.
And we were all just stuck at home, just like paranoid and like, oh, did she murder her husband? And like we just, but yeah, I watched so many true crime documentaries at the beginning of lockdown. I watched Forensic Files and Unsolved Mysteries and like all those shows. But now I just my wife and I just watch Drag Race over and over, or we're watching like Monk, like as far into like scripted as we'll go. Yeah. So I did just finish my second watch through of Andor because it's so good. I've been kind of burned out on Star Wars, and even though I was like, it was one of my biggest fandoms for most of my life, I just got to a point of like, there's too much Star Wars shit, and I just stopped watching. Just too much. Like, I just couldn't keep up with it. And then like, I took a break for like 2 years, almost like a year and a half, and then sat down and watched Andor because I'd heard so much about it. And now I'm like getting not fully back, like I'm not getting fully caught up, but I'm like, okay, this I can enjoy, and this is like the vibe I was digging for Star Wars. I will say that show is just like relentless. Like you'll see like Andy Serkis give one of the best monologues I've ever seen, and then like 20 minutes later, like Stellan Skarsgård gives one of the best monologues I've ever seen. And then like the next episode, like this character gives like one of the best. I'm like, fuck, there's so much good writing in this.
Although I gotta say, like, if it's not a show you can have just playing, you have to be like focused on it.
You
Because
gotta be focused.
if you miss any of those monologues, you're like, oh, what? Who is this person?
Yeah. Whereas it's like we just watch Drag Race because we have a show on in the background as we're like talking to each other, or like literally like we have a text RP D&D campaign that we do all the time. We actually have several. In fact, we have like our own private Discord server to keep track of all of them.
nice.
And so it's like we'll be going through that while a show is playing, and we can like look up and be like, oh, drag queens are doing stuff, and then like look at that for a minute and then go back to what we're doing.
God.
I do get caught up if something on TV is I get distracted and I have a hard time like switching between the two, but it's been really enjoyable. And now that the season is over and I can binge the whole thing, I'm finally sitting down and watching The Last of Us because I enjoy the game so much.
Oh, I wanted to watch that. I really wanted to watch that, and I'm not a horror movie, like, I'm not a horror fan, really.
Yeah.
'Cause I'm a win. But that looks so good. I love, I was never a Pedro Pascal fan until the TikTok edit. I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about. I hope
Oh yeah,
I sound crazy if I don't.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, until the TikTok edit, because I had no idea who this guy was. I'm just like, oh, he's just an actor. I was like, oh no, I didn't know that he played the Mandalorian, because I about that. But other than that, I didn't really know Pedro Pascal. And then the TikTok edit like came out, and 4 million people watched it, including myself. And I was like, okay, he can get it. That's a pretty cool guy. And then Last of Us, and I was like, okay, I see you. And now I'm on, and somehow I got Pedro Pascal TikTok, and I see videos about him all the time, and every video I see of him, I'm more in love with him because he's just a guy. He's so cool.
Yeah.
Right, it's nice to see those wholesome characters that are doing well.
Oh, we gotta hydrate. Good, because actually...
Also, it is Robin struggles to draw hands hours.
Okay, it'd be like that, though.
I mean, on top, it's an Elephant Man hand, so, you know, not a lot of reference out there for that.
I'm I'm just trying to draw like big, like chunky fingers and hoping it works. Also, Frizzle is Fizzle.
Frizzle.
Yeah, you had it right.
Yes, like she is the like key of the piece anyway, so people won't be looking at the hands hopefully. At least they won't be scrutinizing it too badly.
Like, put that Frizzle feather though.
But the Frizzle feather, look at her! Look at the big meaty hands that I tried to put on this elephant.
I've switched back, so we're looking at James now.
Oh, oh my boy.
Yeah, I'm trying to just. I'm not getting too crazy with colors yet. I'm just trying to get my values in here. Thank you.
I just
a lot of.
I'm lazy.
Well, there's a lot of just like, okay, now let's actually go play with the dials until it feels right. So there's not really much method to it.
I did tell Chris I have to trick him into doing another one of Alakazam soon. A big priority for me.
We have not updated him in a while.
Yeah, I would. One of my goals, I kind of keep it pretty close to the vest, like some of the details of Alakazam in terms of what his actual canon abilities and like equipment and things are, because I like to keep him a bit more intentionally mysterious so that I can kind of adapt him to like what I want him to be to the party, because he never helps in a fight. Like, he doesn't fight, he doesn't do this, but I have him show up in lots of campaigns, depending on the setting. There's like, if it's my setting or Forgotten Realms, I'll throw him in there. But if it's like Eberron or Ravnica or Dragonlance, like I'm like, I'm not gonna. But I haven't put out any official like, oh, he has this item and this thing, this. But I'm kind of tempted to just do that. Be like, oh, he has like this, magic hat and this magic ring and this thing. So there's like two stats that I've shared in the past, which is, and I will say, I looked up actual rules-based, like serious, like, okay, can he do this without me just saying he's the coolest and everybody loves him? It's like, no, but like using
the best magic guy.
Like using actual resources that would be available to him, whether he was a player character or an NPC. He has a 29 intelligence. And I'm very happy that I was like, nope, there are ways to like power game and get a 29 intelligence. It's very difficult, but it is possible. And I've shared that he has Robes of the Archmage, but instead of being black, white, or gray, as it's the blue with the stars and moons, and it's his vest and his hat are part of his robes. It's like his it's like canonically it's like he put on the robes and they changed into his hat and vest. But oh, Alec out here getting us to do his art. Yes, that's, come on. Why do you think I married you?
Certainly Ina has paid her dues on Alakazam art.
Yes. Absolutely does. God, James is looking dope. I do like, I know you mentioned it off stream, but why don't you tell people watching how James lost his finger?
So James was, so back to kind of like how I mentioned earlier, they were in a wagon, they escaped, and now they're lost in the swamp. And so as they're lost in the swamp, they come across a lot of Baba Yaga's things. They know it's Baba Yaga because of like some details I forget, but they all know it's Baba Yaga's through like, I think it was like something had her name on it, or at least it was like a dress tune, like they're going like towards the general direction of where her hut should be, but it's a moving hut. So we were like, all right, let's hope it's in this direction. And we were right. So we found this little hut of an old elderly woman who's so sweet, so kind. And we're like, that's her. That's her. That's gonna be fucking her. And so she had basically invited us in, and we were like, okay, so listen, we've got your shit. And she's like, okay, you guys, like, we'll, like, discuss more details in the morning, because it was, like, late at night. She's like, you all go to bed, and James didn't trust her. James doesn't trust anybody, by the way. He's in the Feywild, and he grew up to fear the Fey. Like, he is, like, terrified of them. And basically, it's like a priest being, like, dropped in hell. Like, that's basically kind of James's whole, like, kind of mindset. And he's, like, terrified, and he wants to and he requested to sleep in the living room where he could see the door and where he could see the windows, so that way if any shit happens he could just fucking tuck and roll right out of the fucking doorway or out of the window. So I had him like sleep in the living room, and so my DM goes on to narrate how, like, oh, you all now fall into like a peaceful sleep in James, and I'm like, oh no. And so she goes on to say, like, you try to sleep but you can't, like, you're just too paranoid. I'm like, yeah, that's in character. And she goes on, like, she says how the old woman approaches him and basically tries to, like, talk to him in a very, like, kind, soft manner, and he's like, nope, don't trust you, don't trust it, I don't do
Stranger
this,
danger.
I don't do this witch shit. And
Yeah.
she's like, you're very smart, and like this, and then like right before his eyes turned into Baba Yaga, and I'm giving a very botched like explanation of what happened, but she reveals herself to be Baba Yaga and basically like gives him this ultimatum of his whole life. Like, she speaks to him and like tells him, like, and kind of like reminds him how his whole life everything has always felt so like wrong, like something has always been wrong with you. They, like, the townsfolk, when they found you and as you've grown, they've always feared you, like you have been like a monster to them. Like, don't you want to know what you are? And he's like, I don't want to know what I am, I don't want to know. And so like with enough convincing, he's like, okay. He's like, what do you even want for this information? I know you deal as Fae. I know you want something from me. And she goes, one ring, true as iron. And he's like, because he wears 10 rings. He's like, one ring. She's like, one ring, true as iron. And he was like, and just James, who's so stupid. I knew what was going on, but James was so stupid, was like, so you want one iron ring? She repeats, one ring, true as iron. And I'm like,
Sounds
okay.
pretty easy.
And so they clap hands, and so as that happens, she, like, the gentle witch in front of him becomes this disgusting hag, like, just magic shit. And her eyes glow, and so my DM has voice mod, and so as she's like talking, the voice of the hag becomes really distorted and ugly sounding.
That's cool.
And she, like, as she takes his hand, her, like, kind of like, he had his hand, like, outstretched like that, she takes it from underneath, and her hands were like razors, and her main finger went straight through it, like, right here, and, like, severed it, and then tore it off, as she grips his hand, and shows him this image of himself, but it looks nothing like himself, and it's actually the James that you're drawing now. It's, the, like, whole, like, Winterfell touched James, but he didn't know that. This is like in like session 9 of the campaign, and we're on session 20, and he barely just became that. And he's thinking to himself, like, what the fuck? And he gets his finger ripped off by her, gets shown that he really isn't, or gets shown this image of himself that isn't human, and then is left to bleed out and dies. He dies on that couch because he was already at a really low HP, and because he wasn't able to long rest, he wasn't really able to heal himself. So he dies from a loss of blood, but right before, like, it was kind of, but like, within like 15 seconds the party finds him. And it had been like over hours, like, this happened, and then she basically leaves him to bleed out, and like drapes a cloth over him, and then leaves to go prey on the other party members. And while that is happening, throughout the night, a couple hours later, the party they all go through Baba Yaga, like, deals and shit too. But after all that happens, they find him, and he's got a cloth over it, and it's blood stained, and there's blood. There's one of his hands are like lying, like kind of like peeking out from the cloth, and it's dripping blood because he's like completely bled out. There's blood pooled along the couch, on the floor, from like along the white sheets. And he's like, basically, as soon as they get to him, he dies because he took hours to get to him. And so our druid, our beautiful, wonderful druid Quellen, uses Revivify on him and brings him back. Just brings him back right before he he did die, but brings him back. And he ended up, I had to roll on the table because he died. And I rolled I think it was like an 81. And he, as we're like leaving out, my DM goes, and James, as you leave, you can hear the cries of all of the dead hags surround you because they just went through a giant hag fight right after. Like you could hear the wails and the cries of all the dead around you, and I'm just like, oh no, no! So now he's haunted, which sucks, but I love him so much. And yeah, so that's basically how James lost his finger. And another thing that my DM also implemented from him losing his finger is because he used his main hand, which is his left hand, to grab her hand. And because of that, with his ring finger gone, he's a crossbow expert. And he was rolling. I had to roll with disadvantage, and I still do. I still have to roll with disadvantage when it comes to him using his crossbow because
Brutal.
yeah.
So brutal.
It's gonna be remedied. He just needs to practice with it. But the reason why he hasn't been able to properly use it yet is because the party took away his crossbow. Because as soon as they left Baba Yaga's hut, they stopped, took a pit stop, and decided to take a turn for the Winterlands. And as soon as they took a turn for the Winterlands, James started having hallucinations. So yeah, poor bitch. He gets slapped every session by something. I love him so much, though. I really hope there's good things out for him, but I doubt it.
One thing that's always fun, especially as a DM, is and the reason I like to use hags is because you can really gaslight your players like that.
Yeah.
There is kind of a really upsetting cruelty to what you can do with a hag, because it's it specifies for DMs yes, they have their stat blocks, but that is the most unimportant stat block for me. Is a hag doesn't just fight. They don't just go and use their claws on somebody. They can change reality however they want. They can just do crazy shit.
Unless you're an Agnes hag, which fucking sucks.
Oh my god, Agnes hags are one of my favorites because they just
go
beat the shit out of somebody.
I hate them. They'll fuck with their mind and then they'll beat you the fuck up. I hate them.
Yeah. I will say my number one favorite hag is the beer hag, the cold hags.
Beer hag?
Yes.
Oh yes! We actually literally this past session, my party fought them.
Yeah, they're really fucked up. But Agnes hags are up there. I actually have a homebrew sand hag that I really like that lives out in the desert. They can make you unnaturally thirsty, so you have to use your action to drink any liquid you can find. And so they fill their lairs full of poison. So you're like, oh, I have to drink though, and you just can't help yourself, and you're drinking poisons.
That's sick.
Reminds me of Constantine.
That was the biggest inspiration, was Constantine. That scene where he's trying to drink and he feels like he's not drinking anything, but he just drowns himself in a matter of a couple minutes.
Damn.
And but it's hags are really fun for that. I have one of my dreams, because I've joked about doing it several times, but I've never fully had a party that's willing to commit to it. Because you have to have a party that can be we as players know this, but we will not use our meta knowledge in any way to affect the character choices. Which a lot of players claim that they'll do that, but they won't.
They do.
They're like, oh no, we're gonna. It's but I decided that it's no. But my number one goal is to run a false Hydra, which I think is one of the best monsters ever designed.
False Hydra? Oh my god, they're the creepiest motherfuckers in the manual.
It's so upsetting. The idea is oh yeah, if they kill someone, it's everyone forgets they ever existed. And that's terrifying. Just... It's oh yeah, and when they're singing, you can't perceive that they exist.
Right.
So it's like if
I-
even if you're fighting one, it's like if they're actively singing, which they have multiple heads, it's like so they can be eating someone, they can be like attacking you, and you can't understand that they exist because they're singing with their other heads.
Fucking whack.
Ugh. But I have used hags in some interesting ways, and being like,
We had a fun one with our guy Izzard
yeah.
going up against the hag.
This hag had kidnapped the party and shrank them all down and was going to eat them. She like put them on her like countertop, and I had this map that was like a giant like kitchen countertop, and so they're all supposed to be like, a couple inches tall. I was like, oh, if you're normally like 5 foot tall, now you're only 5 inches tall. And they were like scrambling around trying to figure out what to do. And he's like, I have a plan. I need you guys to hide. And he told them he has the party go and hide. And then the hag comes back, she's like, oh, where's your little friends? Like, you know. And he's like, what are you talking about? You just kidnapped me. He's like, no, I kidnapped like you and your friends. And he's like, no, you didn't. It's just me. What are you talking about? He's like, I don't travel with anyone.
Well, this
And-
was
That is the
after she
funniest
like
thing.
already ate the like what's it called, the my druid had cast like the thing where you can poison someone's food, so she's like already starting to feel weird from eating from her brew that we were going to go in.
Yeah, so it's like,
And so then she's like, oh wait, am I just tripping out because of this thing I ate?
yeah, so she starts to like doubt herself, and he's like, hey, you know, why don't you like calm down? Like, seems like you're really freaking out. He's like,
Stop screaming.
and so he convinces her to like have everyone return to their normal size, but that makes everyone return to their normal size, even the rest of the party. And she's like, see, they're right there, because like obviously they couldn't hide anymore. And he's like, who's right there? What are you talking about? And just
Oh,
pretended not to
geez.
see
Worse
them.
than I thought.
You guys are really gaslighting hags out here. Holy
Yeah.
shit.
Uh-huh.
And he just kept rolling really well, and also he has such a huge bonus to like deception and shit. And so I was like, she's like, wow, something is wrong, like, and she was
That
like
is
doubting herself.
crazy.
And so he's like, look, why don't you calm down? He's like, I have a potion that'll like help you calm down and relax a little bit. He's like, you seem like you're stressed, and he gave her this poison that he had made that they had dealt with brown mold, which like freezes anything it touches. And he had a vial of it, and so he like mixed it up and handed it to her, and convinced her by like gaslighting her into drinking this poison, and
That
it
is
just
so funny.
it just turned into a frozen statue instantly, and they just got out of there.
Oh my god. If you're watching this, we're doing this to Lauren. Next time we meet, we're gonna gaslight it.
It was like masterful playing by our friend Mattman DH. I'm still in awe of that moment.
It's just so good.
There was a
Yeah, I think
similar one-
the druid, I boosted his charisma on top of him already being charismatic with the
yeah, I
it
think he
the
did like enhance
Fox's
ability
cunning or
something.
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. So he had like advantage on charisma checks, and then like he also has a super high bonus to deception. But this is the same character that they had this like really intense political situation where it was like 4 different factions wanted them to do this job, and they're all like, well, if you do it, then I'll pay you this. And this group was like, well, if you do what I want, then I'll pay you this. And they had to get these like 2 books. So they went, and he managed to finagle it that he got paid 4 times. Like, he essentially, like, either he's like, oh, I made a forgery of the books for this group. I destroyed a forgery of the book for this group that wanted the books destroyed. He's like, I like gave 1 book to this group, made a copy for myself and like gave another book to another group. So it's like they got paid by every single faction. And then they like got away while still getting like a copy of these like ultra magical powerful books for themselves.
Nice.
I remember being like, how am I supposed to deal with you, man? Like it took me months to like finally get it, and I had, when he met the Pirate King, they were the one NPC who was able to actually scare him to the point that he's like, okay, I won't mess with you. He's like, you win. Like,
Nice.
I have been outmatched, but it took me a long time to do it.
Hmm.
Oh my god, Harles looks amazing.
Yeah. Sorry if I'm like fucking around with the colors. I'm just like trying to.
Oh, he looks
'Cause
great.
I have a very muted type like coloring style.
Which I will say, we are getting near that point. It is about 5 o'clock.
Oh jeez.
So
I'm like, I doubt I'll be able to have it done, but I do have a sketch.
Oh, totally. Yeah, mine's very much
we do this
far
every
from
where it's like
finished.
it's always either has to be a
You
two-parter
get-
or we post the finish on Twitter later. But let's take a gander when everyone's done. Let's see. Oh my god, he looks awesome.
Hmm.
Get the pipe and the
Let me
Drizzle
get in here.
pepper.
Let me take a look.
oh,
Oh, nice.
obsessed.
I'm glad you're liking it so far.
Yeah, I knew. I just looking at your work, I knew you would do a good job of like getting the relationship, dynamic between them, which I love.
Awesome.
Oh, okay. And then let's take a look at
It's James.
James.
Here it is with the sketch still, since there's some lining to go, and then without the sketch there, just to
Oh,
get
I
an
love
idea
it
of the.
so much. I'm so excited.
Let's
Oh,
see,
it's
let's see it
James
with
and
the
his
sketch
gloves.
because
Oh,
it took a second to pull
You
up.
can see a little bit of the detailing in there
I'm
still to
so
go.
excited.
Okay. Well, all of you watching, thank you so much for watching. Why don't we go through and Rob, you've been an awesome guest. I want to thank you so much for joining us.
I'm happy that you had me.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and post your links, but tell the people where they can find you. And there we go. Your Instagram.
That is my Instagram.
Yes. But where can people find your stuff?
Yep, that I try to post on there. I'm trying to post there every day. So if I can like finish this up like right as we're finishing up the stream, that's probably gonna be my the thing I post today.
Fantastic. And then Chris, tell the people where they can find you. What you got going on?
Yeah. Same. See Levered Art on Instagram and Twitter. And we'll see where I get on James here.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so
But
hyped.
enjoying him so far. Trying to get the I'm just messing with my hair a little bit. What, me?
Me? My thing? No.
Who, me?
Didn't see you there. And the classic go-to pose looking over the shoulder.
course.
I
Can't
love it so
can't go
much.
without it.
It's
Well-
looking awesome. I'm so excited.
Thanks.
And then, if you're watching the show, you probably know who I am, but I'm Alakazam for the Emperor of all things Homebrew. Right now, I actually today released a book of new Bloodhunter orders. It's 6 subclasses for Bloodhunter. Also, earlier this week, I released Alakazam's Appendix of Arcana, which is a book of variant rules and class options. So if you like the variant class options, like in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, it's a bunch of stuff like that. There's fighting styles. There's new meta magic for sorcerers. There's all sorts of stuff. And it also involves a complete rework level 1 through 20 of the Ranger. I know there's been 6 different versions of the Ranger, but this is my version, and I'm very happy with it. So check that out. But I think my biggest project I'm doing right now is obviously Spliced, my upcoming TTRPG that's inspired by the occult. On this upcoming Tuesday, I will be streaming the very first episode of A Rainy Night on 44th Street, which will be a playtest, actual play of the system, so people can actually see what it's all about. Check that out. We're going to raid into our friend Paul Ampersand, who's a cool dude. So
We like that.
I hope all of you have an awesome rest of your day, rest of your week. Robin, again, thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, that's a lot of fun.
Yes, this was awesome. We will
Absolutely.
have to have you back sometime.
I would love that. I
Anytime.
didn't get a webcam for nothing.
all of you out there, stay magical, and what we always say here is keep on whizzing. Bye.
Bye.